I think we are live, and Martyn dropped.
Oh no!
No problem, no problem. We can start chatting away in the public eye and see as the audience starts joining in. Hopefully they do. Hopefully they do. So we can see how it looks like. So far, nobody's in, so it could be that there is no link to join. Lee, are you an expert in this?
No, but Martyn probably is.
I do see
He's
us.
back.
In the
I
event.
see us, but there's nobody dialing in, so it's likely that because I'm also on another device trying to.
Oh, we're in.
I think we're in.
We're definitely live on LinkedIn. Yeah,
we are live. I can see 53.
Excellent.
And then I opened my mouth and it went to 51.
And Daniel is there. Hey, Dan. So good to see you. Kevin, absolutely. We will be recording this. So hopefully we can share it with those that were not able to join us. So let's see as more people are joining in. Excellent. Happy to see that you can see us. This is great news. Fantastic. Luxembourg, Portugal, UK, Zurich, Switzerland, Kansas.
Hey, I'm from Kansas. Hello,
there
fellow
you go.
Midwesterner.
New Jersey, Germany, Zug. There's an echo from me. That's not good. I did my very best with my settings. Anybody else hear my echo?
No, I don't.
Here.
No, not me. So hopefully this is an individual issue. All right. Well, I think we're good to start. It looks like we're good to start. Let me start by saying a big thank you to all three of you for joining us today. I am beyond thrilled to kick this off, and I will start by a really personal story why we're here. And the story goes, I am super sensitive to all the fake news out there on LinkedIn and way beyond that we hear and read and see every day. And thank you, Amy, for nodding, because I know that you're with me. There is just so much half-truth, untruth, fake statistics that we see. And when you're looking for a job, this becomes a problem. This really becomes a problem because you are looking for that truth. You are looking for that solution. You are looking what to do best. You are looking, what can I do to get there faster? Oftentimes the stakes are high. So you are inclined to believe everything that is out there. So when I read one more horrible untruth or half-truth or something that really nobody should be relying on, one fine day I woke up and I said, no, enough is enough. Most of you know I am a LinkedIn poster, but I'm definitely not a TV star or a YouTuber. Amy, all the kudos to you for doing this. This is definitely not my thing. You're doing amazing. So when I figured, okay, what else can I do to address this? I was like, okay, so let me try. And if people don't want to believe me, I'll bring on another bunch of amazing experts who know these things much better than I do, have more experience, more diverse experience, more in-depth experience. And this is where the three of you come in. I really wanted to bring in recruitment professionals who are hands-on, elbow deep in the business, recruiting, screening candidates, receiving CVs, dealing with ATS, AI, recruitment, hiring managers, candidates, you name it. Between the four of us, I think we're covering all many times, many, many years. I went and I counted. We have 70 years of experience between the four of us. That makes me feel really old, but I blame it on the three of you. So intros aside, I really would love to hear from each of you. Why are you here? What makes you qualified? Because I'll be the first one to say, don't trust anything that anybody says unless you know where they're coming from and why are they saying things that they're saying. You know that there's plenty of consultants and influencers and people who will try and sell you all kinds of magic pills. So please tell me, why do we need to listen to what you're saying? Why does it matter? And why are you wasting 1 hour of your life instead of doing more fun things on this call and on this live stream with all of us? Lee, let me start by you.
Okay, so I'll start off with the why I like to think that I'm qualified. You can decide whether I am or not. But I have been in recruitment for almost 20 years. I've worked agency side, I've worked in-house, I've built in-house teams. I have hired thousands of people. I have led teams that have hired tens of thousands of people over that time period. And now I work an RPO called Joint Talent, and I am heavily involved in training recruiters at massive companies across the world, but also implementing their ATSs. So I know a lot about ATS implementation. I've worked with most of them. I've had demos of most of them. So yeah, I think I'm qualified. And then the reason I'm here is a little bit like you, Dana. About 18 months ago, I found myself on TikTok. Call it a midlife crisis. I was just scrolling, and I know it was a midlife crisis because everything that started coming up on my feed was like gardening tips, Excel spreadsheets. But then I started seeing some like recruitment influencers coming up, and it was just really, really bad advice. There was stuff around the ATS and optimizing your CV, and I think because these people have got huge followings. Like, if you've got millions of followers. I mean, there's one guy in particular, I won't name anyone, but he's got over 5 million followers on TikTok, similar on YouTube. And I think people automatically assume that if someone's got a big following, that they are an authority in that space. Not necessarily. And the advice I always give to everybody is, before you take anybody's advice, look at their background and see if they're qualified and have that lived experience to give that advice. So then I started creating content as well. Got over my fear of the camera, started doing it. And now I've got that much footage. I've actually cloned myself using AI, so I don't have to film myself. There you go, Amy. That's introvert levels extreme.
I was going to say, this is probably the best use for AI we're going to talk about. So I might be pinging you for a little more insight there, my friend.
I'm not sure cloning Lee is the best use of AI, but
Really
only thing worse, Martyn, clone Amy.
Amy, you want to go next?
Oh, sure, I'll go next. So yeah, I'm here because you were kind enough to invite me. So that's my reason for showing up. So thank you for including me. But I've been in recruiting for a long time. I think this is my 26th year. So I have a significant chunk of our 75 years. And yes, I do color my hair because it is not naturally, it's gray after this many years in recruiting. But I've done the whole gamut of recruiting types, right? I've started in agency, I did a detour in government, I've been in big tech for the last decade or so, I've worked in other small corporate companies as a corporate recruiter. And similar to Lee's story, like I've been part of implementations, I've been part of design discussions, like, hey, we built this thing. I have a very clear memory, not in my current company, but a couple companies ago, where we were working on an in-house solution. And one of the devs met with me as one of the beta testers, and I just completely ripped apart the design. I'm like, I have to hit 3 buttons to do this, and I have to do that. This is the order. Da, da, da. I thought he was going to cry, y'all. He was like, that's not what they told me to build. I'm like, see, that's the problem. Nobody talks to recruiters. And since the developers don't want to talk to me because I apparently make their lives harder, I'm going to shout into the void, which is LinkedIn Live, to all of you. So yes, use an ATS every day of my life. I have had some version of a tracking system since December of 1998 when I first walked into a Robert Half office. So yeah, I got a little experience with this.
Let me underscore that ATS is around for a long time. So if Amy's been using it since '99, it's not a new thing.
I mean, it was, that black with the green text, like DOS based, and you had to tab. There was no mouse, but yeah, we had a tracking system, I promise you.
The first ATS I used was called File Finder.
Oh, I think I remember.
And I thought, what an appropriate name.
Really is a digital filing cabinet.
It is. But first one I ever used, I built myself in Microsoft Access.
I did that once. I thought I was so smart.
Yeah.
Martyn,
we're old.
We're old, but Martyn, can you beat us with the earlier years and more interesting stories about ATS and AI?
No, I can't. No. So why am I here? I don't know. No, I was invited on very kindly. Again, very kind of you to invite me on. Why I'm here, I suppose. So very much like Lee, been in the industry for just coming up for 20 years. Started off life in the world of agency as well, moving in-house, then spent a lot of my time working in kind of large-scale workforce outsourcing, RPO, those kind of things. But actually finished my proper work stint, as my mother-in-law would call it, a proper job, in innovation. So ran innovation for one of the UK's largest recruitment businesses. And through that was doing a lot of kind of tech transformation. And then from there went into kind of my own consulting, working with recruitment businesses on technology transformation and also in-house teams. But then about what year are we in? Yeah, 8 years ago, I started getting heavily involved in the world of recruitment chatbots. Was unfortunately monikered by some of my colleagues as the chatbot guy, or the chatbot boy, depending on how old or young you think I am, and just got very much known as somebody who does chatbots, and actually have been doing that for the last 8 years in terms of my speciality. I'm also the chair of the Global Summit on Conversational AI, which is held in Berlin every year. So I specialize very much in conversational AI and chatbots, but run my own AI and automation agency specifically for recruitment, called PeopleBots, and have been doing that for the last 6 years. I think I was probably one of the first in the industry to actually have a specific focus on AI and automation for recruitment, specializing in conversational AI. Why I'm here? Because I've been working on AI since before it was sexy. And if you look at the vast majority of people who call themselves AI consultants, their LinkedIn goes back to about 2024. On where they've had anything to do with AI, and tinkering with ChatGPT does not make you an AI expert. So that's why I'm here. Built lots of AI systems for recruiters, and why chatbots? Because you can punch information into a computer, but people really don't like you doing that to them. There we go.
Got it. Thank you, Martyn. Well, we'll get to that, and I think I loved when you said 8 to 9 years ago. I know that a lot of people on this call may think that this is a new thing, by the amount of noise out there. It seems to be that ATS and AI have taken over the world. We don't get through anymore with our applications. There's something happening. The AI is rejecting my application. So I really want to heavily focus on that. I will just add for those of you that don't know me on the call that I am also working in recruitment since 2011, so that makes it 14 years. It's been a while. I started in executive search consulting. I kind of did a lot of that across industries, more on the senior levels. Then I joined a large global corporate where, again, different levels, different areas, different functions. So I've seen a fair amount of ATS. I've also seen probably not as much AI as Martyn has, but definitely a lot of tools and opportunities for us to use, or maybe avoid using. Let's put it that way. Right. So let's deep dive. Right. ATS, applicant tracking systems. What is it? Why do we need it? Can we avoid using it? Do candidates need to know what comes out after they submit their application? Obviously, everyone can see whenever they go on career sites when they apply. This is an ATS where they enter their information. I know Amy recently wrote that it doesn't take too long to submit an application in Workday. Some people tend to disagree. Potentially, the gentleman that sent me the PowerPoint CV the other day may use a little bit more time to submit his application. But absolutely, I don't know. Lee, do you want to start with it? ATS. Let's start from the basics. What is it? What's the difference between ATS and AI? And where's the confusion about it?
Okay, so the best definition I can give on an ATS is it is a really, really fancy and sometimes overly expensive digital filing cabinet. As you know, as a recruiter, if I've got, say, 40 open positions in the ATS, I will have 40 different requisitions or jobs, and then those jobs get advertised on the careers website and then get posted onto other job boards. Then when a candidate applies for the job, the ATS knows which job they've applied for, and their application, their CV, and any information they get filled in gets stored against that record on the ATS. So it's just a really, really easy way to organize all of your applications and CVs by job. Whereas before the days of the ATS, which would have been in like pre-95, because ATSs are really, really old, you would have just had all of those CVs probably not even coming in by email, coming in by fax machine, or coming in the post. But I have worked with recruiters who don't have an ATS, and everything comes in via email. Now imagine you've got 40 open roles and you've got hundreds of applications for each one, all coming into an inbox. It's completely unmanageable. But then also what the ATS allows us to do is when we're going through all of the CVs, because yes, a human will go through all of the CVs, not the ATS rejecting them, we will look at the CVs and we can say yes or no in terms of, do we want to move them to the next stage of the process, or do we want to send them an email that says thanks but no thanks, which can be automated, and people do confuse automation and AI, and they're two completely separate things. And then it helps us manage interviews through the process, so we can add a hiring manager against that job, automatically send a candidate the email that says, this is when your interview is, this is who you're meeting. Then the interviewer can go in, they can put their feedback, they can put their notes against that record, and it just keeps it all together in one system. It's just a really, really fancy filing cabinet. Whereas AI and I'm trying to be really careful about how I describe AI, given that we've got Martyn on the call.
He'll correct you.
But
I'm testing it.
he's testing me. Whereas AI is more involved in being autonomous and like making decisions. So if you go to ChatGPT, which I think is the AI piece of AI most people are familiar with, and say to it, write me an article about X, Y, and Z, it will make the decisions and write it autonomously, and it will put all of the information in there. Whereas in an ATS, very few ATSs actually have any element of AI in them. Some of the more modern ones do, and some of the older platforms have started getting new modules added in as well. But all the AI does in those cases, when it comes to your application or it comes to your CV, is it will scan, in some cases, the CV, and it will rank you in terms of your suitability against the job description. It doesn't automatically reject you. I mean, there's a really, really piece of boring legislation called GDPR, which doesn't allow autonomous decision making in things like hiring. So companies can't automatically reject you using AI. A human always has to be involved. But the interesting thing about the ranking system is, and this is why no CV can ever be ATS optimized in terms of getting past the ATS, is because Martyn will probably tell me I'm wrong, but there's at least 350 different ATS platforms out there. But also, every single job description is different. The way Amy's companies write job descriptions will be different to the way my company will write job descriptions. So no single vendor can say, I can write you a CV that is optimized for these 350 plus ATSs and every single variation of a job description out there. And then the final thing I'll say on it as well is most job descriptions are awful.
Yeah.
Most of them are terrible and aren't really reflective of what the hiring manager's actually looking for. And again, in most ATSs, you'll have two versions. You'll have the job description, which is that 15-page Word document that's existed for 15 years and gets updated every time they need to hire somebody, which nobody apart from the hiring manager and the recruiter sees. And then you've got the job advert, which is the public-facing thing. And that's basically all an ATS does. I've waffled, so I'm going to shut up now and let somebody else have a go.
I think it just makes sense that Martyn goes now next and explains, okay, so the modern ATSs, what's the element of AI in there and how does that impact? If I'm applying for a job, submitting it through the ATS, I don't want to get past it, because if I get past it, then my application is not going to meet the recruiter and the team. So I want actually to be in your ATS and my application wants to be on your screen. Martyn, where's the AI element in this? Who's looking at my application? What options do we have? If I'm applying and I don't know what ATS it is and what's happening after I click submit.
Yeah. Some great questions, and just kind of following on from what Lee was saying, you know, from my perspective, absolutely an ATS is a very expensive digital filing cabinet. It also needs to make sure that it's governing the process is probably the best way of putting it. So, you know, if and again, much to Lee's points that there are a bazillion different ATSs in the market across millions of different organizations and millions of different hiring managers and recruiters. Every ATS is even set up from a process perspective slightly differently. And so just you know, agreeing with everything that Lee said there, is that there is no way that anybody out there can prophesize exactly what's going to happen once they submit an application, because the world of recruitment is chaotic, for want of a better word. So look, you know, the vast AI is out there in recruitment, but actually the adoption levels are still quite significantly low. You know, out of the millions upon millions of organizations out there that are recruiting, the vast majority don't use one. And Lee said that, you know, spreadsheets, emails, you know, email filing systems are probably the most favorite, if you call it a system. So you know, if you are using AI in your ATS, the vast majority don't actually realize they're doing it. CV parsing is probably the most obvious example of, or resume parsing for non-UK colleagues, is the most obvious example of where AI has been used and is continuing to be used in the ATSs for a significant amount of time, because it's a simplistic form of AI, but it's still AI. And when we define AI as, you know, a process or something that needs a computer to make a human level action or decision using human level intelligence, absolutely, a human would go through, they put out the constituent parts of a CV and they put it in the right fields in the database. And that's exactly what's happening when you pass, you know, a CV. And by passing, I mean literally stripping out the information, putting it into data fields. So actually, I would say to people, if you want to optimize your CV for an ATS, make sure it's got the right data in there. Don't try and trick things. Don't try and, you know, white text. Don't try and all these kind of, you know, influencer-led ideas that are just absolute nonsense. Think about the fact that actually you're trying to push your CV into a filing cabinet, and so we need to extract the data. And like Lee said, you know, there's no one format, so make it easy. You know, make it machine readable. You know, make it, don't bother creating it on Canva, all those kind of things, because that's where AI first hits in the process, if it's going to hit anywhere, is stripping out the contents of your CV and putting it into the ATS. After that, if you are utilizing some form of AI to rank candidates, I won't say select or deselect. Usually, if you are using AI to do any form of post-application screening, it's to rank, because like Lee said, the vast majority of legislation out there doesn't allow you to make automated decision making. So ultimately, you know, what we'd be looking for is a system that helps surface the better candidates through ranking, and then allowing you to still, as a recruiter, go through, you know, if you wanted to, the entire application pool to make your own decision on it. But again, you know, there's no standardized way that works. You know, every AI vendor out there, every ATS vendor out there has their own way of doing things ever so slightly. It should all be based on how the recruiter makes a decision, automated decision execution rather than automated decision making. And therefore, in order to try and optimize your resume, you're going to have to start thinking, how would the recruiter review this CV, not how would a piece of technology review this CV. So again, you know, some intrinsic points there that don't try and trick the system. Try and make it easy for a recruiter to look at your CV ultimately.
Thank you. Amy, you're the most experienced recruiter between us. So what is that magic formula? If you are receiving applications, what are you looking for? Are you ticking off boxes that you have in your job post? Are you looking for somebody who fills, you know, every single requirement? What are you looking for?
Yeah.
Who are the lucky people that get to talk to you?
Who are the lucky people? So caveat, I'm obviously coming from a US-based perspective. So I'm here with my European friends. Thank you for including me. I think a lot of the audience is probably not in the US as well. You all have GDPR, which also speaks to how we use that data and what we're allowed to do with that data. In the US, we don't have that, but we do have something called OFCCP. So this is actually related to any organization that has any sort of partnership or contracts with the US government, like my current employer, like my previous employer, like 90% of the companies I've worked for, even an agency. So it's not just, oh, you're going to go be a contractor in Washington, D.C. It's, oh, we provide, you know, computer software to this, like Microsoft, obviously. Every 97% of the government runs on Windows. So guess what? Microsoft's OFCCP compliant. So what that means, why that's important, is because those basic qualifications, those minimum requirements that we're putting in the job description is the filter. This is very unpopular. People hate it when I say this, but it does not make it less true. So first of all, understand that the ATS, applicant tracking system, is merely a system that holds all the information. Common misconception that the ATS is actually doing something to your resume. It's not. A recruiter is getting in there and doing things to your resume. A hiring manager is getting in there and doing things to your resume. A scheduler is getting in there and doing things to your resume. So I often get pushback where candidates will say, well, if the ATS doesn't do this thing, why do you even have one? Why do you even use it? Oh my God, let's talk about the other 90% of my job that has nothing to do with looking at your resume. So I'm opening roles, I'm approving roles, I'm editing information, I am reviewing applications as they come in. I'm going back and doing talent rediscovery. This is a great case for AI. Write me a really good Boolean string that's going to bring forth the right people out of a large pool, right, that already exists, not direct applicants. I look at those one by one, but when I'm doing a search, I'm going back into my giant pond to, try to fish for some really good talent. That's a great way for me to use AI, or even just like a basic Boolean string or a basic search filter that a lot of these ATSs are equipped with. So I'm doing all these other things in the system that have nothing to do with me looking at your resume. So please understand, if you threaten to take the ATS away, I'm going to need a lot more notebooks, because if I don't write it down when it's happening or type it in the ATS, spoke with Martyn. He's comfortable with this start date. And Lee said he would take this amount of money. If I don't document those things in the ATS, I will forget. I've made over 100 offers in 2025. It's March, people. If I didn't have the ATS to manage all that, I wouldn't have been as successful. So that's kind of how I use the ATS. And I think what job seekers need to understand about, like, what am I looking for, or how does a recruiter approach that? I will tell you, I've never seen a ranking system that made sense. I've only seen ranking definitely in Taleo. One times I used Taleo. I've used Taleo multiple times. Only once was ranking enabled. It was terrible. We hated it. We ignored it. I might have had it, remember. But anyway, it's not, so I don't ignore it. But what I am looking for is in the job description. I need to see proven context that you can perform the functions required. So I hire hardware engineers, for example. I may be looking for specific experience in some sort of hardware development. I need to see that you know how to use CAD. I need to see that you've actually built something that has flown, ideally in space, but whatever. So there's those kinds of caveats that I'm looking for. So when I'm eyeballing your resume, I'm doing a quick scan with that mental filter. The hiring manager is looking for A, B, and C. I need to see A, B, and C on the resume. We also have something called knockout questions. I'm kind of watching the chat, and there's a lot of discussion flying about, well, I got rejected in 10 seconds. Like, okay, yes, you probably did. That is an example of a decision tree. That is not AI. That is a if yes, do this, if no, do that. Any basic Access spreadsheet to take it all the way back, Lee, could do that. So we do use something that we call knockout questions here in the US. I think I heard Lee refer to it as killer questions, but these are those role-related expectations. Do you have at least 3 years experience writing code in, Java or C# or some other related language, right? That's one I remember from my Microsoft days. If you answer no to that question, the decision tree is enabled and says, not a fit. We're going to go ahead and reject, send a reject notice, move you to the disposition pile. But all of those resumes remain visible. I could intentionally go and click on the disposition link, and it's going to bring up all the people that either I've rejected, someone from my team has rejected, or were auto rejected because of one of those knockout questions. So nothing ever leaves. And that's important, because when I go back to do that talent discovery again, and I'm searching for those people, those are the fields that I'm looking for. I want to go find that person with CAD experience that's for, one of 27 different aerospace companies I'm tracking something, just as an example. So as far as like why you have all the requirements and then some, in my experience, there's 2 reasons I'll just share quickly, and then I'd love to hear from my friends here. But it's either number one, a knockout question. Maybe for in the US, do you require work authorization? Not every company can provide visa support and sponsorship. So I work again for a company that is under some other restrictions that I won't get into here, but you have to be a US person. I just cannot provide sponsorship. So that would be one reason. I've had people accidentally answer the question wrong. Different questions. They hit no when they meant to hit yes. That leads to an automatic rejection. It also, the second thing is a role is no longer accepting applications. Now, ideally, we've taken the postings down. We've done all the things to make sure we're not getting any more applications. but there are third-party sites that will scrape different company career sites, and they will post jobs long after they should have been shut down. So I'll be quiet now, but those are my 2 thoughts on that question.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can only add to that. I look at tons of CVs every day in, day out. And what I'm looking at is back to what you were saying, Amy. I'm looking at the things that are absolute priority for my hiring team. What are must-haves? And as nice as these screening questions are, people know the answers that we're expecting, and they answer the right thing. They get through, and then I look at the CV, and there's no sign of that. If there's no sign of that, either you forgot to put it in, or there's another reason to that. I'm not going to be screening you if I have another bunch of candidates that have very clearly demonstrated that they're meeting my requirements in a very clear, concise way, and I definitely see a match with the role that I'm hiring. I think one big thing that we need to address, it's not AI related. I think we need to address the market state. Right now is the highest, by far the highest volumes of applications I've seen ever in my career. So you need to understand that the amount of other candidates you're competing with is probably 10 times bigger than it used to be 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. So that's where a lot of confusion comes from. Yes, you may be meeting all the requirements, but if that industry preference is set as desired, and there's another 20 candidates that have everything that you have on top, and then they have something else that is desired, or maybe desired and not even listed in the job description, then I'm afraid it's going to be a no. So Nadia, thank you for the question. There's a ton of reasons why you could get a rejection almost instantly. A lot of times it's a direct rejection also by the recruiter. Let's face it, we are in our ATSs all the time, all day long, sometimes at night as well. So if you receive a rejection at 1 a.m., I'm just catching up on my work. And this is me and not AI. Amy, tell me you've been there.
Oh, I've been there. And I was joking with someone about this recently because like Friday night, like don't reject me on a Friday night. Like, okay, first of all, some people prefer it because they just want to get it over with and not ruin their weekend waiting for a decision. But also, guess who is working in silence on Friday night with no one bothering me and without Slack going off every 30 seconds? That would be this girl. So I'm 50. My club days are over. I am home with my ATS and my dogs. But I think also timing plays a part, right? So you mentioned the market, and that is absolutely key to all of this. I think 2 big things have happened in this most current, I don't know if I want to call it a recession yet, but whatever it is, it's ugly. I recruited through the dot-com bust. I recruiting through the housing crisis. I was actually a home building construction recruiter during the housing crisis. That was super fun. I recruited during the 2009 recession. That's actually when I pivoted to government. So like my friends here, we have seen these horrible markets come and go. We're in one of those horrible markets now, but here's the wrinkle. We are more connected than ever. We have social media that is in every single part of our life. There was a rise in remote work for a long time. Competition is more fierce than ever, and people are talking about it more loudly, more often, and in more places than ever. I promise you, in 2005, when my agency was crumbling because the housing market was just falling apart, thanks subprime mortgage lender crisis, it was big news in my circle. LinkedIn was still pretty new then. Gmail was still invite only then. The world has changed significantly, so it is also visible now. You wouldn't have known about the problems people in Pennsylvania were having 20 years ago, but you know it now because it's all over your LinkedIn feed. So it feels exaggerated, and it feels like way bigger and way worse because we were insulated years ago when it was happening. That's my thoughts.
Yeah. And well, look, so if we are in the super competitive, crazy market, what chances are for AI for the candidate use? Martyn.
Great question. And actually, just to hammer that point home, I've spoken to 2 companies this week. One who has seen an increase in applications from 12,000 in 2023 to 45,000 in 2024. And another organisation, a local government organisation, have seen their application numbers go up by 200%. So we're absolutely seeing a massive increase in application volume. That's why we see jobs being pulled so quickly on places like LinkedIn, where the recruiters are just going to have to having to shut it down so they've got a chance to keep up. And that means, quite rightly, that there's massive competition, and it's going to be really, really difficult to stand out. Now, what we are seeing, and as has been put quite rightly, both in the comments and also in the show, is that you need to think of how you can stand out even better. And actually, what we're seeing now is this is where things like chatbots really shine a light, and there's a lot of negative sentiment and also positive sentiment around the use of chatbots in recruitment. Ultimately, if done properly, it's an amazing opportunity for you to have a conversation with with the organization, to almost have that first stage of screening that you would normally have with a recruiter. And that binary screening: are you in the right location? You do realize it's not remote. This is the salary. What's your availability? What's your notice period? All those kind of binary kind of questions that we tend to ask just to kind of qualify the application. If we can do that, and we can ask a couple of scenario-based questions, which again is totally possible using conversational AI now, then you're being given the opportunity to not only take your application but boost it by showing extra on there. So a lot of the negative sentiment I've seen around chatbots in recruitment have come from both candidates and recruiters. Candidates saying, how impersonal, I can't believe that they've asked me to talk to a chatbot. But ultimately, think of it like this: would you rather talk to a chatbot and try and show your best self, or would you rather just be ghosted and not have a reply to your application? Because that's the situation right now. Because when we think about it, the state of recruitment, and there's so much negative sentiment around the state of recruitment. State of recruitment, unfortunately, is very poor. The candidate experience is very poor right now. That's not because recruiters are bad at their job. It's because they don't have the capacity. We're talking about these large numbers of people that are applying. And ultimately, if a recruiter actually takes the time to go through the resume, go through the CV, to maybe even have a quick screening call, they can only do 53 of those in a day. And with the number of requisitions that they're working on and the number of applications per requisition, that's what 53 a day, 265 a week. It's impossible to get through the number of applications. So it's a capacity issue, not a capability issue. And unfortunately, that means they have to get help. And that help comes from things like recruitment chatbots. So if you're a candidate and you're really, you really, really want the job that you've applied for, and you get asked to speak to a chatbot via chat, via text, or even via voice, don't turn it down. Don't think it's impersonal. It's actually giving you the opportunity to rise to the top. So take that opportunity, take advantage of it, and do the best you can, because that's the only way you're going to stand out nowadays.
Excellent. Any other AI tools and systems candidates can use, Martyn, you think, during their application? Use or abuse?
There is absolutely plenty. And look, the best organizations out there are the ones that are giving advice to candidates on how to use AI responsibly and relevantly in the application process. There are a lot of organizations out there who are saying, we're banning the use of AI. That's the worst way to go. Because AI is here, it's a productivity tool. It's like saying, we're banning Excel for an accountant.
Could you imagine?
Yeah, exactly. So it's out there and it's going to be used. But there's lots and lots of rules out there. Unfortunately, with some of these one-click apply tools, these one-click AI apply tools, you're not given the opportunity to see the final product before it goes into application. One of the biggest challenges we have with AI is it hallucinates. It's like asking your friend who's on magic mushrooms to write your CV for you. It's not going to, it might here and there come out great, but other times it's going to come up with a load of nonsense. So you need to make sure that the first output isn't the final version. When you're using things like ChatGPT to create or help you put together a CV or help you put together a cover letter. And that's the issue with some of these tools that are out there saying we can apply for hundreds of jobs all at the same time. you don't know what's going out to those employers. So I would hesitate to use those tools, but I would, rather than spending half a day, really tailoring your application to the role, spend an hour, half an hour with ChatGPT tailoring it, but iterate. Don't just expect the first one to be the best version. Iterate, iterate, and iterate until it shows the best version of yourself that's honest and truthful.
Thank you. If I can just add quickly, I know there's a lot of buzz about keywords in the CV. And I can see your faces, guys, but it's a thing. So people think they need to add in every single CV from the job description into the CV. I've seen CVs that consist solely of keywords, and it's not making any sense whatsoever.
And the keywords are in white.
And it's just what I'm looking when I'm reading a CV, I want to understand, have you done similar roles? Do you have what I'm looking for? Do you have transferable skills? Do you have the aptitudes? Have you demonstrated the success track record in certain things? There's no keyword that is going to be able to do that for you. So you really need to ensure that it reads, it makes sense, it's coherent. And Amy, a few words on keywords from you. I think you have something to say.
So I will tell you right now, and I have a video on this on my YouTube channel. My hiring manager's number one complaint when we're doing calibration or we're looking at resumes together, or I'm presenting, people I think would be a good fit, which is important. My reputation is based on what I am forwarding to the hiring manager. So I'm not going to get that wrong. I'm just saying. Their biggest complaint, this resume is full of keywords and I don't understand anything that this person actually did. This resume is a keyword stuffed nightmare. This person just took words that they think are common in the industry that they think is going to impress us, and they just put them all over the resume with absolutely no explanation of how they used that tool, that technology, what they accomplished. Every time somebody says keywords, I die a little bit inside, because are they important? Well, yes, of course. We are looking for those key indicators that you know how to do the job, but are they like the end all be all, or are they what's going to get you? No. Finite element analysis all by itself is meaningless. I ran significant modeling in this tool and resulted in improving this by that. That's meaningful. That's what the hiring manager wants.
Yeah.
Okay, so no keywords. How about cover letter? Is that going to make a difference?
Keywords with context.
Yeah,
they have to be wrapped in a bow.
Yeah, and that's the just on that previous point around using AI as candidates, right? When you were applying for a job, whether it's writing your CV, whether it's writing a cover letter, whether it's answering interview questions, you're ultimately storytelling. You are telling the story of your experience. AI can't do that unless you feed it the knowledge. You'd have to spend a really long time telling it everything that you've achieved. So my advice would be is write it yourself with the story. Then you can ask ChatGPT or Claude or whatever to refine it and maybe make the language a bit more, aligned to whoever your target audience is. But then when it comes to interviews, has everyone seen those videos? I see them a lot on TikTok where someone's on a video interview and they've got a phone in front of them and it's AI and it's listening to the interview question and then it's just giving you a scripted answer. No, they're not stories. You need to tell stories all the way through the hiring process, which is the same reason when I'm training recruiters, I tell them, don't use ChatGPT or AI to write your job adverts because you are not telling a story that way. It's going to be boring. It's going to be bland. In terms of cover letters, I will be completely honest. One, I've never asked for a cover letter. And two, I very, very rarely read them. And the reason for that is it's going to be your CV. As Amy said, we're very quickly scanning CVs using our filters in our heads for what the hiring manager is looking for. We're not going to go in and read a CV as well. Someone put in the in the chat, if you get 8,000 CVs, are you reviewing them all one by one? Yes, unfortunately we are. If each of them had a cover letter, that's 16,000 documents. We're not going to read cover letters. The only time I would ever read a cover letter is if I've read the CV and it is outstanding and they are like a brilliant match for the role. Then it'll be, oh yeah, I'll go and read the cover letter now. I'll also go and look at them on LinkedIn. I might go and see if they're on Twitter. I might go and see if they're on, because I'll get curious and I want to know more about that person.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, cover letter makes zero difference. I would say the only time, unless the company asks for one, the only time it's a good idea to write a cover letter is if you are applying for something that would cause the reader to think, why have they applied for this? So in my example, I've been in like a leadership role in TA for quite some time now. If I was applying for a role where it was really hands-on and in the detail, then I would write a note or a letter to explain, actually, I really missed this part of the job. And I know it might seem like a backward step, but actually it's not. This is what I enjoy most about it. That's the only time I'd suggest write one, is if it's like a career pivot or a transition, just to explain to the reader. But even then, I'd be lucky if anybody read it.
You have to understand the origin of cover letters. We used to get resumes in an envelope mailed to our office through the post office. Not so much anymore. So a cover letter went over the resume, slid into the envelope, and actually explained, I'm responding to your ad for blah, blah, blah in the Seattle Times on Sunday, May 12th. We don't need that anymore. We know what you're applying to because it's all tracked in our handy dandy ATS. So a cover letter, I absolutely agree with everything Lee said. I will say pivots are really hard in this industry, not impossible, but really hard, or well, this economy, I should say, not industry necessarily. But that's really the only time. Or if they're asked for, if a company wants it for some reason, that could be just some top of funnel friction. They want to weed out the tire kickers. They only want to see applications, resumes, whatever, from people who are going to invest the time. You can debate whether that's fair or not another time. Companies get to make that decision for themselves, but that's the only time I'm personally going to write a cover letter is if it's being required. Otherwise, I have no use as a recruiter and I have no interest in it as a candidate.
Got it. I think I'll cover the next one because this is a really straightforward. We discussed the motivation letter, CV in PDF or Word. This has been a topic on LinkedIn probably for the past week, Lee and Amy. Look, when in doubt, write it in Word, cover it in, make it into PDF. I know that Word comes from my side. Word can come out in different screening tools differently. So if you want to make sure that the reader sees exactly what you're seeing it, make it into PDF. Don't overcomplicate it. Make it as simple as possible. If you need a template, go to Lee. He's got one really, really basic, simple, to the point, really helpful. 15 to 20 years of experience, CV on 3 to 4 pages is okay. Look, 4 pages is on the long side. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that you capture the attention on the first page. Your first page, or rather the first half a page, is your prime place that you want to ensure that the reader goes, aha, this person has something interesting for my job. Let me keep reading. Once you've done that, then it doesn't really matter. If you make it 7 pages, nobody scroll till the end, so don't do it. But generally, I've seen a 1-pager where somebody with 20 years experience tried to squeeze everything in. Did they have enough space to demonstrate they're qualified for the job? No, they did not. So make sure that however many pages you're using, use them to really be concise and brief, but address what the reader will be looking for. I guess we're all in agreement with that.
I mean, we don't print them anymore typically, so page length really doesn't matter. I'm just scrolling on the screen, but I think most of us probably are perfectly fine with a 2-pager. You have to think of it, the resume is the movie trailer. It's not the whole story. It's enough that that's interesting. I want to learn more. And that's what prompts us to get on the call with you. That's what prompts us to maybe send you to that chat bot. I don't have a chat bot, but Martyn has chat bots. So, or we send it to the hiring manager, whatever. So don't overthink it. The singular goal of the resume is to get an invitation to a conversation. That's it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But so let's talk a little bit more about, so how do I stand out? What else can I do? If there's thousands of applications on your ATS, what can I do to really stand out? And I think we need to look a little bit broader here rather than just CVs, applications, ATS, AI or no AI. I think right now, if you really want to maximize every opportunity there is for you to get a job, or rather the right job for you, which I think is equally as important, you need to ensure that you have a much, much broader strategy. Now, Martyn, what would be, if you were looking for a job now, what would you be doing?
It's a great question. It's a really good question. Well, first and foremost, it depends. I mean, ultimately, there are so many places you can find jobs. That's the first thing. So there are a lot of niche job boards out there. So I would actually specifically look for your niche, whether that be geography, role, industry, etc., etc. Because actually they're the best curators of the best opportunities, rather than going to the generalist job boards, the Indeeds, the LinkedIns, the Monsters, the Zips, etc. Monsters are the thing. I don't know why I said that. That's my age. So it's very, very difficult to find the right jobs on those very generalist job boards. So I would actually hunt out your niche job boards to start with. Most of those will take you straight through to an ATS-led application anyway. Now, here's the interesting thing, and I'd love the feedback of Lee and Amy on this one as well. I've been thinking about this for a while. How do we use AI to optimize the application in a unique way? Now, here's my thoughts. Bear with me for a second. I would take the job advert, I would run it through ChatGPT with the prompt of, put yourself in the shoes of the hiring manager. What are the top 5 to 10 interview questions that you would ask for this job? I would then take those on one screen and I would transcribe myself answering those questions. I would then take that transcription, take my my lead template based CV, because it is a great template. I've even looked at it as well, and it is a really, really good template. I would take my CV that I've already created on these. I would put that into ChatGPT. I would put my answers to the questions into ChatGPT, and I would ask it to optimize for the interview that I've just had, because that's when the storytelling comes into it. It's very difficult sometimes for people to stare at a screen and type in order to show themselves off on paper. But the most natural and intuitive way to communicate is through conversation, is through voice. So if we can start talking through how we would answer that interview question, then maybe we can project that into our CV and really optimize it for that storytelling, star methodology, etc., etc. And so that's how I would start, by standing out, by having a superb CV that actually preempts a lot of the questions that would be asked through storytelling, which should ultimately have the keywords. Amy, don't go mad.
With context.
The keywords in context, exactly. So I don't know what your thoughts are, Lee and Amy, on that kind of CV that might come through.
Yeah, I'm gonna lose my room here in a couple minutes, so I just want to get this last thought out, and then I'll probably have to drop. But I would say, like, it is as simple as like maybe following instructions. That would be huge.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. So I'm pretty outspoken. I'm all over the place. I get recognized at work a lot. Like, oh, you're Amy from LinkedIn. I'm like, oh, geez. I don't know if that's a good thing, but but along with that, I have also given very specific guidance. This is what I recruit for. I have the purple hiring banner. I have my top 10 roles listed that I update every week or two. I have specific instructions in my about section. I put it in my post about jobs. Do you know how many people actually follow the guidance that I give you? Very few. I am giving you a direct email address to contact my entire recruiting team. I'm telling you exactly what I'm looking for and what I need. Like, it is amazing to me how many people who it's amazing to me. And so when we look at application volume, and I understand that's a concern people have brought up, roughly 10 to 25% are actually qualified of the applications. So even if it's 1,000, okay, great. I might have 100 to 250 to actually look at. And then, again, the folks that are actually following up through the mechanisms we have given you, it's going to be different for every recruiter, for every team, for every business. So what's going to work for me might not work for Lee, might not work for Dan, it might not work for Martyn, and that's okay. But if you're going to my job board, my career site, you want to work for my company, you want me to be your recruiter, I'm giving you the breadcrumbs. Please follow them. That's all I'm asking. Please just follow them. That's how you get noticed.
Absolutely. And you're very lucky if you have 200 qualified applicants, Amy, because that sounds really optimistic.
It is very optimistic. People also, real quick, people also overestimate how many applicants a job actually gets. We get a big number usually in the first 24 hours or so. It just dries up to like a trickle for the next few weeks. We have to then repost it. Like there's a lot more that we need a part 2, friends. That's what I'm going to say. I got to run. I got a meeting I got to run to. Thank you for having me. Let's do a part 2 if y'all are interested, because I could talk about this all day.
Thank you. Well, let's see the feedback of our audience, and if they want a part 2, I'm absolutely happy to do it. Thank you, Amy. And look, if you guys have another minute or two, I just want to add where I was actually bringing this. I wanted to bring it to the outside of AI topic point, that there is a world out there that does not include ATS and AI and job boards. There is a world where you have a network, you can get referrals, you can learn about new jobs in the near future from your community. You can absolutely utilize LinkedIn for, establishing who you are, what you know, what really drives you, what you have passion for, where your expertise is, and, network and try to learn from other people. There is the green banner, which we didn't get to talk to yet about, but I know Lee's, my team, use it. If you are out there looking for a job, you want to be seen, it is noticeable, it is helpful. If you're not comfortable with it, I have absolutely no problem with it. Use the settings on LinkedIn to notify recruiters that have access to LinkedIn Recruit to say, these are the jobs that I'm looking for. I'm actively applying in these locations. I would consider only remote or hybrid roles. Use these. There are lots of tools and opportunities, but first and foremost, don't forget that there is a world out there outside of the digital world. And oftentimes it's the relationships and your credibility and your past performance that really is going to propel you into that dream job.
Yeah, totally agree. And yeah, we're not going to talk about the green banner, but all the rubbish you hear about it being a bad idea, it's total BS.
Yeah, it is. And definitely use your network as well. That's how I've got my last 3 jobs. Yes, apply for jobs, but also use your network as well. Double your chances.
Recruiters love referrals.
They do. And look for opportunities to contact people. But this is where you need to be efficient with it, right? Is don't just fire out messages to recruiters saying this is what I do and this is what I'm looking for. Because if they don't recruit in that field, you've just wasted your time, your effort, your energy. As a very quick example, I'm looking at a message I got today in my inbox. I've recently completed my PhD in fisheries science, specializing in fish health and bacterial diseases. They're looking for a job. Have I got any jobs for them? Have I ever, if you look through my LinkedIn, shown any indication that is a sector I recruit in?
I get several a week, and I'm not even a recruiter. So, and people who want to come and join my business when you can find out on LinkedIn that I'm self-employed. It's
Maybe when you see Martyn their application, you're gonna go, look, I'm gonna create a company and hire this guy.
I'm gonna go and apply for a job at Martyn's company right now.
Absolutely, only people with beards apply. Yeah, exactly that. Use your network, but do it sensibly and research first before you just fire off loads of spam messages, because it's annoying for everyone.
And while you're at it, offer help, because there's definitely a lot of things that you can offer, support others, connect people, give a hand. If you have more time on your hands, right, there definitely is an opportunity, be it job search, sounding board to somebody else, share your experiences, be it a LinkedIn post or a personal one-on-one, give before you ask, and use your network, and follow us for more tips and tricks. Thank you so much, both of you. Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you to the audience. You guys have been super engaged, answering each other's questions. Absolutely loved seeing that. And let's see if there is a demand. Maybe really we need to do part 2.
I'm up for it. It's been a great conversation. Brilliant with us, and also I agree, it's such an engaged audience. It's been great to see the comments and the questions.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.